Welcome to the Brett Davis Podcast.
Well, a doubleheader tonight, and it just so happens that we have another gentleman was in the Marine Force for 32 years, 31 years. Chris Ellinger.
Good to be here, Brett.
Thank
Thanks
you
for having me.
No, it's been, I mean, you're a very busy guy. I mean, you're all over the place. You're involved with the Gary Sinise Foundation. You just recently, how long ago did you retire?
I went on terminal leave, which sounds deadly, but it wasn't. Around end of July, and then my actual date popped on the 1st of October.
Well, thank you for your service. You're somebody that right off the bat, when I met you, I liked you and admired you for what you do. And I love our military. And
it was my pleasure.
Well, there's so many, I mean, I'm so many people that you probably met during the 31 years that you made a huge difference in their lives.
I could only hope as much. And, when you have mentors that you can count on one hand, you say, I need to be one of those guys that my guys can count on one hand after 30 years, because, it's a people business. Combat's a team sport, and, relationships it's everything. It's that interpersonal connections that make men and women in the scariest and toughest situations do extraordinary things.
So with current times, with technology, and if we take military out of the equation, we have a group of children and kids that are growing up where they're not really social. They are social in a different way. They're more about the iPhone, more about communicating that way. And then the type of communication we're doing right now is very odd to them. Your son's not that way, by the way. I've met him. He's a good kid.
No, he's not. He's he's a pretty social guy. He's a smart kid. But you're right. Technology has been an absolute game changer in the development of our species. I mean, since the first iPhone came out, I mean, you think about, there's more computing power in your iPhone than there was in the Apollo space lander.
Right.
But to a fault. I mean, there has been a generation of younger people that I think have lost the ability to interact socially face to face, because it's been very easy to just do it with a text or a tweet. And I think it puts them at a certain amount of a disadvantage. So hopefully, when they get out into the real world, into the workforce, they can recover from, maybe not having that as part of how they grew up, or how they developed as a young person.
Which is going to be very challenging. But even the workforce that you and I remember has changed since the pandemic. I mean, we're seeing more people work from home, which is not a bad thing, because I personally like working from home, but I also like going to work. It's nice to be able to juggle both of them. So that going back to the military and going back to the Marines, is there been a difference because of technology, or is once they're in, everything's kind of taken away and they're focused on their job? I mean, is it still the same, or is there a difference because of technology?
Well, certainly the Marine Corps I joined 31 years ago, I would say is somewhat different nowadays. We have a lot smarter young person enlisting than me, and then the guys that I showed up with from the Brooklyn MEPS to Paris Island back in 1991. They're a lot more technically savvy, which is great for a lot of occupational specialties that are technical. I was as a commission officer, I was an artilleryman, for the last part of my career, and what I've seen develop because of technology in getting fires on targets is eye watering. I would be doing pins on, we call charts and darts, pins on a map, using this protractor type device to figure out direction and distance, where now everything is computerized. You could basically do it on a smartphone and get rounds right in the middle of the target. So things are a little bit different, but at least as far as the Marine Corps is concerned, the thing that makes the Marine Corps unique is the desire to have the chance to belong. It's the intangible parts of service that makes the Marine Corps different than the other services. You will never see a Marine Corps recruiting commercial that talks about how much money we'll give you for college, and those tangible aspects of joining the service. Our basic message continues to be, if you think you've got what it takes, come see us and we'll give you a shot at it. and that's kind of a special club to be a part of.
Well, so it's a message that somewhere, and it kind of ties into what it's really interesting because this wasn't planned on the interview I just did currently before you got here. We are having problems with a lot of these types of situations in everyday life and in work, aren't we, in the country?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, COVID is there'll be books written for the next 50 years about how it impacted our children, especially the younger ones, the education, how far they're behind, but also the workforce, both negatively and positively. The fact that there are huge corporations shutting down entire office complexes because they don't need them anymore, and they're getting the same productivity out of their workers working from home, and having a chance to finally have that work life balance, which we all are so desperate,
Mhm.
to have as
Mhm.
husbands and wives and parents. I think there's a lot of good lessons to come out of it. We just have to, apply them appropriately, and make sure that we don't go back to what the status quo was just because it was the status quo. And I'll give you a great example. Um, in the area of counseling, um, there were a lot of folks that was working with that were counselors for substance abuse, alcoholism, and they would not have a lot of service members want to come to their office because they were afraid that there would be a visual of them going in the front door, and it kept them from getting the help they needed. During COVID, it was all virtual, and those counselors saw an uptick in people coming for help and getting help and being helped by the counseling that was provided. Toward the end of COVID, their supervisors were thinking, well, we should just go back to how it was. And the counselors were like, we would take a huge step backwards because of the factor of I don't want to be seen walking in this front door. But if I can do it privately from my cell phone in my car, sitting in the parking lot, my house, I'll get the help. And that would be the difference between somebody getting help that they needed and maybe being intimidated to, go to a physical place. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So many different layers and levels and stories that we haven't heard. How did COVID affect? We were going to talk about COVID, but you brought it up. How did COVID change the way that you led your men?
Well, at that point in my career, I was leading 3 men. Uh, I was in a small office. I was a staff officer. I was not a commander
Okay.
at that point. But it was weird because at first, we didn't know what we didn't know about COVID. Remember, we were wiping our mail down,
Right.
you know, and all sorts of weird things that we would know now is not anything that we needed to do. But you know,
Precautions.
everybody was trying to do the right thing and give it good advice, and unfortunately, it sort of polarized the country with things like vaccines and boosters and all that stuff. But what we were doing was basically cycling me and one other officer into the shop, and one person in there at a time, which was good because one of our people was a single dad, and his daughter was home all the time. So this was a kind of almost a blessing in disguise that he wasn't having to figure out what do I do with my 9-year old during COVID because school is closed,
Mhm.
and he was able to almost spend the whole year making sure she was doing her schooling online with adult supervision, which, as we know, a lot of kids didn't have because their parents had to work. Um, the kids that didn't even have Wi-Fi and they were sitting in the McDonald's parking lot trying to get online to do their schoolwork. It was a tragedy. But we would just cycle through. Me one day, my captain the other day. We'd wipe everything down, backing out of the door like we're wiping down a crime scene, hoping that we don't get the next guy sick. And we didn't miss a beat. We were lucky. We did a practice run when we heard this thing was coming, and we were able to figure out how to access all the major systems and programs that our shop needed from home. So we really didn't miss a beat, and it was a good lesson learned that those things can happen because there are continuity plans in case a plane flew into MCRD and blew up our buildings, right? Accident, what have you. Where do you operate from? Where do you move the command post to continue continuity of operations? And I think COVID taught us that in many cases we can do it from our own homes for the non-classified stuff.
So it was almost like we were attacked in a way.
I think it made us think about being attacked, being taking care of our families, taking care of ourselves, trying to take care of our Marines and sailors. Keep them healthy,
Mhm.
because that would be the perfect time for the enemy to pull a fast one,
Absolutely.
in some contested area when we are sort of on our heels from the pandemic. So I think we learned an awful lot across the force, across the entire United States military, on how to continue continuity of operations in that type of scenario, which was certainly a new thing for us.
We started IQ podcast in March 2020.
Wow, bad timing.
No, actually,
Actually, good timing, right?
we
You-
the first 6 months we were our podcasts were very in because people were staying home,
yeah,
and
exactly.
we were up 1,500% in 6 months from where we were when we started.
Totally makes sense. I remember that Friday the 13th was the day everything got shut down.
So I looked outside, of course, in Coronado. There wasn't. I looked out at sometimes, and I didn't see anybody on the streets.
Yeah, it's
When
pretty
it first
weird.
started, and Italy was on, going crazy.
Right.
People were dying left and right.
Yep. Traffic on the 5 was amazing.
Yeah, it was nothing like it.
Yeah, get to LA in 45 minutes. Like, what's happening?
So there was a lot of positive that did come out of that. Now I will ask you a personal question, and if you don't want to answer, that's okay, because I have a lot of respect for you,
Mhm.
you being here. Tell me a little bit about the jacket you're wearing.
Well, I was lucky enough to
It's
find.
a very nice jacket, by the way.
Thank you. This is a World War II Marine Corps herringbone. It's called a herringbone jacket.
That was in World War II.
World War II in Korea, because
It looks amazing. It looks like it's brand new.
when we hit Korea, we were still using World War II gear. So if you look at those Marines in Korea, they don't look very different than the Marines in World War II, because our budget is notoriously small.
Mhm.
The Marine Corps downsized to a very small number, and then all of a sudden Korea happened. But anyway,
Amazing shape.
it's in really good shape. It's got metal buttons. It's got these cool pockets. The Eagle Globe and Anchor is a little bit different. I wear it as a tribute to a mentor of mine, a guy named Ron Clark, who was a machine gunner in Korea with Charlie 15, and he was my first friend here in Coronado. His wife Kathy was a school teacher here for 40 years and taught my children Sunday school. And I actually met him outside of the church, waiting for his kids to come out of Sunday school. He was chain smoking cigarettes outside next to his Forerunner that had a Marine Corps sticker on it. So I walked up to him and I said, "How you doing, Marine?" He said, "I'm good. How are you, Marine?" And we became fast friends. And he helped me through some difficult times as I was readjusting to getting home from Iraq. So Ron Clark, he passed away a few years ago, but I was just wearing this at his son-in-law's birthday party on Halloween. He's born on October 31st, lives down in Margarita, and he's like, "You're wearing Ron's jacket." It wasn't his, but it would have been what he was wearing. So
What a great story.
and
What
I
a great
thought this-
testament.
it would be great to wear it so people could see it on the podcast. Yeah, for sure.
And Margarita Street was the place to be on Halloween. It always has been.
And it has even become more because they have put bollards in, so it is closed off from traffic now. So it is its own little Bourbon Street down there, completely safe. No one's going to run you over.
It's great. We walked out. We got a chance to go by there towards the end of everything, but we always like going there.
It's great. A lot of fun. Haunted houses. People put so much effort into
Well,
stuff.
they care. They
Yeah,
care about
it's
what
great.
they do, and it's good old fashioned fun the way we remember it. And one thing I can say we have in common with the kids of today, they love Halloween the way we probably did.
Around here, for sure. Yeah, this is the type of community that loves Halloween. My wife and I, we love go camping out. This year we did it at the Islander, the old Leroy's, right on the sidewalk, so we could watch the kids and the parents come 3:30 come by, and it's so fun to watch the creativity and enthusiasm that the families have for the little ones. And then when that's over, you go off to more grown-up stuff.
That's so neat. We love Halloween, as you know. We took a break this year a little bit, but we'll be back strong next year with
That's
some kind of
good.
a great,
I hope
crazy
so.
Halloween event. So,
I was born and raised in Sleepy Hollow, New York, which is
were you really?
maybe the unofficial,
I've been wanting to go there forever.
home of Halloween, if you will.
Sarah didn't believe it was real. I said, "You got to see these photos of Sleepy Hollow." She says,
It's
"No, it's not true." I said, "It's a real place, Sarah."
it is a real place. When I lived there as a teenager, it was called North Tarrytown. but originally it was Sleepy Hollow. And sometime after I moved away, it was changed back to Sleepy Hollow, probably for tourist reasons.
Sure.
But the high school football team are the Horsemen, and they had a guy on a
Are you
stallion
serious?
with the pumpkin and no head
Did you hear
ride
this,
out as
Sarah?
the mascot with the Halloween music playing
Did you hear this?
and scare the bejesus out of the opposing
I know what you really
team.
want. I know what you really wanted to say. So they actually have a football team called the
Horsemen.
like the Headless Horseman.
Yeah.
And the guy comes out on a horse, right? They have a mascot.
Yeah, at least they used to. I mean, you can YouTube it. I mean, it's a neat place. It's right on the Hudson River, about maybe 15, 20 miles north of Manhattan. You can see the skyline if you look down there.
I got to tell you,
it was founded by the Dutch in the 1600s, before the English even showed up.
Amazing. You have lived a very unique and interesting life.
I think I have.
And you're still here to talk about it. And a lot of people don't get these opportunities nowadays. In a way, you're very blessed.
I am very blessed. That is not even a question.
And you seem to have fun with everything you do. Almost, right?
I do. I think I think I am less of a curmudgeon than I was as a younger man.
Really?
I think so. Yeah. It's nice when you're finally driving the bus and you can do the things that are important to you, that, help others, and instead of just clocking in, clocking out.
So that's a segue for what you're doing now, which is the Gary Sinise Foundation.
Gary Sinise Foundation is one of the many things that I'm doing right now. I will tell you that I've had some friends that have gotten out of the Marines, and they were a bit lost, emotionally lost. They felt like they didn't know who they were, and they struggled with becoming a civilian after 20, 30 years of service. So knowing I was going to retire, I sort of front loaded myself with a bunch of different opportunities, because I wanted to get busy while I was still wearing the uniform, and then transition into staying busy with those opportunities when I took off my camis. The Gary Sinise Foundation is probably the biggest, most effectual thing that I do as a volunteer. And if I can give you a little history on the foundation, I was approached a couple of years ago, and asked if I wanted to be one of the founding board members for the San Diego chapter. So a couple of years ago, Gary and the leadership at the national level decided that it would be advantageous to taking care of others if we could sort of regionalize, instead of just working out of one national headquarters across the country. With the idea being that there are certain cities, certain areas in the United States that are really heavily loaded with veterans and active duty folks. The first chapter was during COVID, so that was a bit of a challenge, but they got off to a great start, and was in the Orlando area of Florida. Mm-hmm. It was a no-brainer that the next chapter would be in the San Diego area. It's the highest concentration of active duty and veterans in our country, so that was a no-brainer. So the board of directors was put together, and we're all volunteer organization. But it was put together very methodically, in the fact that we represent the major segments of our community as far as people that serve. So we've got, at the time, we had me as the active duty guy in Marine. We had a representative, a board member that was a career Navy person. We have a board member who is his whole career, he's been fire, and a very high level of the basic San Diego area and larger fire community, working in those horrific fires that we've been watching,
Mm-hmm.
almost every fire season. We've got a new member recently who is a connection to federal service, such as the FBI, CIA, that sort of thing. And our chapter president is a 30-year more Navy Master Chief, who spent 19 years with the Marine Corps as a FMF corpsman. So we've got an amazing collaboration of different disciplines and experiences that form the the San Diego chapter of the foundation. And we probably started about 6 months, sort of getting busy until we became an official organization, and we had a kickoff ceremony on the Midway, which is the best way to do anything in San Diego, is on the flight deck of the Midway. And we've been around a year ago, August, taking care of first responders, military folks, and their families in this San Diego area.
So there's people out there. I mean, everybody, of course, has heard all the great things Gary Sinise does for the veterans. If people wanted to get involved or contribute in any way, do we have the information on there?
We do.
It's on there. There it is, right there.
Yeah, it's GarySiniseFoundation.org. That's the national website. If you go into one of the drop down menus, I think it's About Us. You can look at chapters, and you'll see the Florida chapter and the California chapter, the board members, and then direct links to donate if you should desire, or not even donate, but how to help out, how to get involved.
Sure.
I'll give you a little background on sort of the origin of the foundation. Many of us, especially guys our age, we know who Gary Sinise is. To the younger kids, he's maybe not as current, but I mean, to you and I, we have seen all his movies. We've seen him on TV, but we really know him as the character of Lieutenant Dan Phillips in Forrest Gump.
You keep saying guys our age. You're 35, right?
I am not 35. And Gary's family history has a long service of military history.
Okay.
And it was something that he was always brought up, appreciating and being aware of. In the national headquarters, he has a sort of a large conference room that has a whole history of not only his
family,
his career as an actor, but really it starts with his family, with pictures of his relatives serving in the various wars throughout our ages. So Gary, as a young kid, grew up being very knowledgeable of that history and very appreciative of it. And then he had this opportunity to play Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump, and you know, as we know, fans of the movie, Lieutenant Dan was Forrest Gump's platoon commander in Vietnam, and he was gravely wounded. He lost both his legs, came back to the States, and really went on a very severe decline, like a lot of our veterans have. But really, it's because of that relationship with this character Forrest Gump that, you know, he basically exercises his demons. He gets back on his feet, no pun intended. And you see him at the end with a new bride,
right?
At Forrest's wedding, and he's turned his life around, and he's a happy, joyous person.
It's one of my favorite movies, by the way. There is a scene where he's talking to Forrest Gump and Forrest's friend Bubba, where he talks about his family's tradition of dying.
Yes.
So is there a parallel between?
I don't think the dying part.
You see how they were,
but yeah, you see one guy keeling over after another in all the great wars,
different wars, and so I wonder how many of them, how many family members were in war, but maybe didn't die. But there's a parallel of war, going from war to war to war.
I guess it points out that family tradition. Hopefully not as gruesome as Lieutenant Phillips's family. You know, it's him in every uniform keeling over in the flashback. But that experience for Gary sort of changed his life, and the Disabled American Veterans Organization, which you know, it's the DAV. It's one of our heavy hitters that takes care of veterans and serves as their advocate in so many ways. They reached out to Gary and made him the Disabled American Veteran of the Year award.
Wow.
And
first time in history.
I'm sure the phone call was something like, "Guys, you know, I have my legs. That was CGI." And they're like, "No, it was the role you portrayed of that success story of somebody down and out that got back into the game of life and made it good again through his relationships and his experiences."
Because that friendship that he had, he might have never became the person he became had he not had that friendship.
I think that was the point, is that this simpleton that was involved in all these amazing historical experiences by happenstance, um, changed this guy and made him a whole person again. But it was that relationship that Gary established with the DAV that got him starting to entertain the troops. We've heard of the Lieutenant Dan
Oh, they're
band.
amazing.
Yep. And they're still out there.
Amazing.
Recently, we were at Balboa doing a Serving Heroes event. I think we fed 3,000 Marines and sailors and staff members at Balboa, and he and his band played for, God, it must have been 4 hours, 5 hours.
Last year?
Yeah. No, this year. It was this year.
This year.
Yep.
I keep getting, to me, this year is gone already. So yeah, it was probably
Yep.
more like what, in the beginning of the spring sometime, maybe?
It was summertime.
Okay.
And before that, during our time in Iraq and Afghanistan, Lieutenant Dan Band was part of the USO programs that were going over there to entertain the troops and make them happy. And so Gary's been doing stuff for veterans and first responders and their families for many years. The foundation became official, I think it was about a dozen years ago. It was about 12 years ago, where it became the Gary Sinise Foundation. And it's got numerous programs within the foundation. And it's a beautiful thing because it's all based on donations from people like you and me, or corporate entities that are wanting to be a part of it and writing checks for exorbitant amounts of money because they want to help. And Gary's unofficial motto is, we can always do a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Just to tell you about a couple of the programs that are part of the foundation, the Resiliency and Relief and Resiliency program has the Lieutenant Dan Band as part of one of their programs. And it's that USO style, visit the troops, participate for them, play for them. As you know, in years past,
Bob Hope
would do the same sort of thing. In years past, before COVID, it was not uncommon to find Lieutenant Dan Band at the Hotel Del for the Father's Day concert.
I saw them on Father's Day
for many years.
A couple years back, right before everything happened. They
Yep.
were there. I
Yep.
remember that
For sure. There's another program in that area called the Snowball Express.
I've heard of that.
The Snowball Express, for lack of a better understanding, is it's Gary's thank you and we love you to the children and families of fallen service members. It's the Gold Star families, where he brings them together in different places around the country. Probably the greatest example is almost renting out Disney for this organization. And a lot of these children and wives or husbands, as the case may be, come back every year, and they reconnect with the other family members that they have met, that they have experienced a loss together with, and they heal together in the Snowball Express. And as the kids get older, when they hit 18, they are invited back to serve as quasi-ambassadors to the newest kids, as mentors, as chaperones, as big brothers and sisters, to help them get through what they got through years ago. So that's an amazing program.
What's amazing is you've lived this full life. I mean, you're not a spring chicken anymore yourself. Either of us are. But I see this passion when you're speaking about what you're doing, and I'm familiar with what's going on, just because I listen to, we live in Coronado, we hear a lot about military things that are going on, but I see this passion coming from you when you talk about it. It's almost like you're this young kid again, starting over, getting another start over into something that you really love to do. And am I right about that?
You are. Like I mentioned earlier, my military service was a people game. It was a group sport. It was a team sport. And just because you take off the uniform doesn't mean you're off the team. And this is my ability to stay part of the team, to help those team members that need a little bit more.
And it's nice because you're bringing all this experience yourself of things you've gone through in your life, or people that have, and now you have this wisdom that you bring to the table, and you continue to get to give of yourself. And that's going on another note, because there's been a lot of different things that we've talked about, because you are lived a very, very unique life that most people don't get to live. And you've given so much back to so many. So when I first met you, because we have a mutual friend, Cynthia, of course, but I don't know if she goes by Cynthia. She goes by another name, doesn't she?
Salanista. Yes, it's confusing at times.
Right? So she's a great person, and she's always spoke very highly of you. And when we first started to talk and meet, your name kept coming up a lot. And I thought we just have to meet this guy. We met, and I don't know how that all worked out, but I was very impressed by the way you give of yourself to people. And like you said, it's something we need to do more of right now. I think if we learn to do that more in the world, in this country specifically, and we look more at just being good to each other and saying, okay, well, you're different. That's okay. I'm different too, but we like the same cigar. We like the same beer. It doesn't matter whether, you have this political belief and I have mine, and you have a different gender belief or whatever. The bottom line is we need to get back to being human to each other.
It's easy to do.
Right?
It really is.
And we do need that, don't we?
We sure do.
Big time, huh?
We sure do.
So one of the things we did is we had last year, you were too busy because you got all these things going on. We had mentioned you in Beyond the Bridge as the Coronado Citizens Award. So you were the first graduating class, which you're going to be doing that again next year, of all times, Cinco de Mayo.
Awesome. That could really end in a bad way.
Well, I like walking the tightrope a little bit once in a while, so it seemed kind of interesting to have it on Cinco de Mayo.
I know it, right?
We could make that very interesting. Have a mariachi band come in. Next thing you know, people are doing anyway. Never mind.
I would like to watch that from a distance.
Well, I need help.
Okay.
I need your advice. I need wisdom from you. Okay. So we came out with this award, and now why is this loose? Is it supposed to be loose like this? It's just the base, but I mean, okay, because it's a beautiful award. I think it is, and it goes, of course, to 2022 Beyond the Bridge newspaper, to the Coronado Citizens Award. Chris Ellinger, military in community, selfless, charitable acts of kindness. And even after everything, for everybody that's listening, that we talked about, he's very humble. But I have to say that without really knowing you last year and hearing more about you, I think this totally fits you.
Thank you very much.
I think it totally, and it's a very minor token of things that we want to do. So where the real award's gonna come from, though?
What's that?
I want to help you. I want to help you in any way that I can. I have some specialties. Basically, my wife, I work for her, but we want to help you any way we can with the Gary Sinise Foundation or anything where you need help, because I think we would be a good team player to help out in any way. We don't want anything out of this. It's just we have like anything, we have some accessibilities to some things, and I know you have a lot of them yourself, but we would love to help in any way we can, and we love what you're doing, and that's the real reward is getting to know you and becoming friends, because I think we have a lot of the same beliefs, and I think we can do some great things.
Thank you, Brett. I appreciate the award. It's beautiful. I would just ask your listeners to, if you're interested, to take a look at what the Gary Sinise Foundation does, GarySiniseFoundation.org. There are all sorts of drop-down menus about the 2 chapters or just the national level. You can donate. You can give your time. For example, I continue. I've been doing it for about a year and a half now. Once a month at MCRD at the depot, Marine Corps Recruit Depot, we feed a different battalion lunch. I just bring in 100.
Are you Italian?
Not Italian, battalion.
Oh, battalion. I see you bring an Italian lunch. I'm like, why don't you talk to Bonifacietto about this?
No. I need to enunciate. We feed a different battalion, not a different Italian, although that would be amazing. Va bene. And we just say thank you. Bring your family, bring your wives, bring your kids. Take half an hour, take off your campaign covers, take a deep breath, enjoy a free meal, and it's all about saying thank you for what they do every day, because those guys are on 24 hours a day making those recruits into Marines. They're with them 24 hours a day for 3 months straight until they get them out to the fleet. So this is just one of the things that we do around here as part of the Gary Sinise Foundation in San Diego.
Well, we look forward to talking more. I think we need to grab some beers, talk more about some stuff.
We'd love that.
Off just about things that you're doing and how we can maybe help you. And we do really want to do that. I don't know what we can do, but if there's something there, we'd like to find out how we can help.
Sounds good. Just take a look, GarySiniseFoundation.org, see what you can do.
Oh, and of course, if you notice, Chris is wearing a hat, and when he brought it in, I'm like, I've seen that logo somewhere.
Yes, this is Crown City Cigars, the best cigar store in San Diego. Certainly the best in Coronado. Started up a few years ago by my friend Officer Keith James, a local policeman here for 35 years, and myself. And
He's a great guy, by the way.
he is a fantastic individual. And it was his passion for cigars that got me interested. And we said, let's give it a try. And we're going strong since 2014.
Wow.
It's a great little shop. It's old school, as
I
old
like it.
school
I
can
like
be.
I like it a lot. I mean, I walk by and I smell the cigar and I look at my wife. I said, I have to pop in here and grab a stogie.
It's my best, cheapest advertising plan is the smell of cigar smoke wafting out of the building.
I love it.
We're over at 1136 Loma Avenue, which is the side of the Winchester building on Orange that has Island Pasta and the Village Pizza in the front. So we're on the side next to Shea Loma. So come on by and grab a stick.
There you go. Everybody, hope you got some information about the Gary Sinise Foundation. Came and talk, thinking about the cigar, the stogies, the Gary Sinise Foundation, of course, because it's a great foundation, and this gentleman is top notch. And I'm lucky to know you. Thank you so much for your humbleness and for always giving of yourself to so many people.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Sarah. It was a pleasure to be with you guys tonight.
And thank you for your service.
My pleasure. My
and
honor.
Thanks to your wife also, who was also giving her time to the.
She's getting ready to wrap up 30 years herself. So
wow.
Yep. So between the two of us, 61 years. That's why my back hurts so bad. I guess it's starting to catch up.
Whiskey is a very good cure-all for backache.
I will not disagree. Yes, sir.
Everybody take care. Hope you enjoyed the show. And thank you to my sponsor, of course, Attorney King, Sequan Casino Spa and Resort, where we're going to be having the Educators Award coming up December 9th. And we're going to have all the top educators. We're even going to be honoring something that's very important that most people don't think about, custodian of the school. It never really gets recognition.
Excellent.
Also, the cafeteria workers, who are a very big part of that school. That school doesn't look the way it does, or all those good aromas that come out of that school doesn't just happen by accident. So those are people that we want to honor this year. And it's going to be a great event. And we're going to have some of the local talent from Coronado performing from Coronado's Got Talent at the dinner. So it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of good drinks, a lot of good fun. Hopefully, if you're in town, you can make it. We'd love to have you.
We'd love to be there.
Okay. Everybody take care. And of course, thank you to Marco and Bonifaqueta for his support and friendship, and IB Fitness over in Imperial Beach. Thank you, Marina Teal, for what you do. Everybody take care. Be nice to each other and have a good night.